Dogs bark for many different reasons. They may bark to alert you that someone's at the door, to invite play or interaction, to be let outside, to come inside, out of frustration, which is sometimes called demand barking, and most often they bark because they're bored. And if they're bored, they will literally bark to hear their own voice. They will bark at leaves falling off the trees and ants crawling on the sidewalks. The barker that's easiest to manage is the bored barker. Give him something to do. Hide goodies like treats, chewies, or toys around his yard or house to find. Make sure you are adequately exercising your dog. If you feel that you are exercising your dog enough every day, then maybe he is not getting enough mental stimulation. Reward quiet, calm behavior with a chewy or a toy with goodies inside, or maybe an additional walk or a game of fetch. Sometimes just low-key praise will do it. These are all good reward systems for appropriate non-barking behavior. Now, let's talk about some specific situations. If your dog wants outside, for example, and putting him outside results in a barking dog, here's what I want you to do. With absolutely no emotion, go get your dog and bring him in. He will, of course, instantly stop barking when you bring him in. Reward his quiet behavior by putting him back out. In this situation, he wants out, so putting him out is the reward for quiet behavior. If he starts barking again, which he most certainly will, depending on how solid his habit pattern is, once again, with no emotion, bring him back in. Continue this process until he starts to understand that it's his barking that causes you to come outside and bring him in, and his quiet behavior that sends him back out again. Be really quick with your reaction. At the very first bark, go get him. If your dog has to work up to it with whining or other vocalization, go get him then. Don't wait for it to escalate into a bark. The longer he's quiet, the longer he gets to stay out. The key with this one is to be quick and emotionless with your responses. In the meantime, here's something else you can do. Without him seeing you do it, leave a chew bone lying right smack in the middle of the yard. It will be the first thing he sees when he goes out, and just like that, he forgets to bark. His attention has successfully been redirected to something appropriate. It's a self-rewarding behavior. If he barks once again, he must immediately come in. Remember, it's the quiet behavior that gets him back out the door to the yard and his bone. Over time, as you start to see results that are getting longer and longer with no barking, start moving his chewy to different areas of the yard. It keeps it interesting that way. Now his focus will be, where will I find my bone today, as opposed to letting the neighborhood know he's just come out again. If your dog is barking to get your attention, sometimes referred to as demand barking, immediately break off all communication with your dog. No eye contact, no touching or petting, and no scolding. Turn your back to your dog and instantly turn back to him when he stops. Again, no attention for barking and lots of attention for no barking. You may have to go as far as leaving the room altogether. That may mean stepping over a gate or into another room, closing the door behind you. If your dog is barking to get out of his crate or to come inside from outside, do not open the door or go to the crate. Every time you respond to the barking in any way, let alone letting him out of his crate, you are reinforcing the behavior. The second he stops, even if it's just to take a breath so he can bark again, quickly walk over to the crate and ask for a sit or eye contact, and then let him out. The association made with getting out or coming in will be the last behavior performed, in this case, looking or sitting. If he's barking when you let him out, that will be the last association. For dogs that are alert barking, for example, when someone knocks at the door, you may want to review the Speak and Quiet command found on our Dog Tricks Volume 2 video. Let's spend some time talking about the dog that goes absolutely crazy when they see someone walking by their house or coming to the door. Simple barking can quickly escalate into growling and lunging, and some dogs will even launch themselves at windows and doors. There was a time when this was called the mailman syndrome. For example, your dog sees him coming down the street and starts barking. As the mailman gets closer, his barking escalates, and then to add fuel to the fire, the mailman has the audacity to actually walk on your dog's property to deliver the mail. Your dog is incredulous at this point, and his barking escalates into a complete meltdown. He may even actually lunge at this point, either at the door or the window. Then, miracle of miracles, the mailman turns around and leaves. Your dog absolutely believes that it was his barking that made the mailman leave. It just as easily, though, could have been kids walking home from school, or trying to sell cookies at your door, or even the poor UPS man. He becomes more and more convinced that it's his job to make them leave. Remember, dogs learn everything through association. Now, let's talk about how to address this issue through desensitization. You might want to enlist the help of friends and family members that your dog already knows. Station your helper down the street, out of sight from your dog. As your helper starts to come down the street, start rapidly feeding very high-value treats to your dog. Maybe something he's never had before. Accompany feeding your dog with low-level praise as the person comes into view. Continue rewarding and praising until your helper is out of sight. Only have your helper go a quarter to a third of the way across the front of your property before they turn around and go back the way they came from. Or have a prearranged signal that your helper can see from the street or sidewalk to send them back. You can use it at the exact moment you start to see the anxiety level go up in your dog. That way, the dog never has a chance to escalate to explosive behavior. This desensitization program will take many repetitions. Not all at once, of course, but over time. As your dog can tolerate it, gradually increase the distance your helper will walk before turning around and going back. When your dog does finally tolerate your helper walking the whole distance across the property, add a second person. Maybe at first they walk together and then one at a time. As his tolerance level goes up, try adding a child to the mix. First walking, then maybe running, at some point riding a bike or even rollerblading. You might even want to have him stand on your front lawn throwing a ball back and forth. If he's tolerant of all that, start over with one person walking up your walk a little way. Use the same signal to let the person know when to go back. Don't push it. Watch him closely for signs of anxiety. During the whole process, you are giving low-level praise and tons of high-valued treats. You can see that this is a long process with many steps. Be very patient. Keep practice sessions short and always end on a positive reaction that you can reward. I would recommend that you practice 2 to 4 times per day on the days that you can. If your dog has issues with uniform delivery people, guess what? Dress up a friend wearing a hat and carrying a package of some sort. Start the whole process over again. Plan for a long process. Be patient, consistent, and positive, and you will start to see the kind of results you want. If you feel after all your work that you're not getting the level of success that you would like, you might want to contact a local qualified behaviorist.